I've flown all the way to Sweden to sleep inside of an old plane. Now come and spend 24 hours with me in Stockholm. So I started my trip by taking the Oxford airline bus down to Heathrow, which runs fairly regularly from Oxford. Now this was £32 for a return trip. The journey itself took around an hour and 15 minutes on a Friday afternoon, as I took the afternoon off and had a late-ish flight on the Friday. And before I know it, I was already at Heathrow watching the plane take off and land. And then we ended up at the central bus station, which is where the airline bus drops you off. And we made our way into Terminal 2 and made our way through security, which didn't take too long at all. Now, I went to this restaurant and actually got this free from my Priority Pass membership, and then had to head over to the boarding gate. And today we're boarding from gate A23 over to Stockholm. As you can see there, the flight is at 9 p.m. From what I can tell so far, it's a particularly empty flight. Currently in row 27, might have the whole row to myself. Let's see when we get on board. I've never flown Scandinavian Airlines before, but let's get on board and see what it's like. And luckily for me, I did have the entire row free for the whole 2-hour flight over to Stockholm in Sweden. I have been to Sweden before, but I've only been to Malmö. This flight cost me £65, and here's a lovely view of London on our way out of Heathrow. Now they did dim the cabin lights to this lovely purple colour for the duration of the flight to allow people to sleep, as we did land about midnight in local time. And here is the A320, which has brought us here from Heathrow. Now the reason I'm actually here is to go and stay in this old abandoned plane. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out on my channel. That was £64 a night, but now it's time to get a good night's sleep. So now that we've had a night in the plane, let's head into Stockholm city centre to see what it's got to offer. Now I headed back on the free bus back to the airport terminal and headed for the Arlanda Express train into the city centre. Now you can get a bus, and this is probably the most expensive way to get there, but as I will show you after we've gone down these escalators, I did manage to get it for a little bit cheaper. Sort of a weird sort of looking train station, kind of underground cave kind of vibe, but once you're on the platforms you get your tickets. Now luckily I was able to get a youth ticket, which was 320 Swedish crowns. Otherwise it will be 640, so I got it half price. Now this was a total of £24 for the return trip, which I took when I came back later that evening. I didn't have to wait too long for the next train. I believe they depart every 13 to 15 minutes. This is what the train looks like inside. Perfectly adequate for the quick 20-minute journey it only takes to get into the city centre, with some lovely views in the daytime, as we said, just hurtling along through the countryside to the city centre. And 20 minutes later we made it to the central train station in Stockholm, and on this lovely day with bright blue skies I took a walk down to the old town. I don't really have much of a plan. I'm just going to walk around the old town, and then at 3 o'clock I'm going to see an opera at the Royal Swedish Opera House. I've just had some delicious coffee and a lovely eggs benedict, and now it's time to walk around the old town, which dates back to the 13th century. Now this is Gamla Stan. Apparently it's the birthplace of Stockholm, so where it first originated. And as you can see, it's lovely little windy alleyways, cobblestone floor. There's lots of different cafes and coffee shops and little cute alleyways, so let's go explore. Just like that, I've sent a postcard back to my nan in England. She always used to send us postcards wherever her and my granddad used to go. So I found a cute old poster that they shrunk down to a postcard. I went into the post office and wrote on it, and then sent it over to the UK for a grand total of £2.30. So Nan, if you're watching, I hope you got the postcard. So one of my first thoughts from walking around the old town, it's quite similar to other old towns you might get in Spain, etc. But what it is nice is just over here, as you can see, is the sea, I suppose. There's lots of green space around the water as well, which is very nice, not just cobblestone. It's nice to have a bit of contrast as well. But lots of coffee shops, lots of good places to get some gifts, some souvenirs, some obviously some tacky stuff, but there's some genuinely good quality products as well here. I would easily say you could spend a whole day just walking around Gamla, the old town. There is so many different streets that have different cute coffee shops and gift shops around it, so definitely spend a whole day just walking around here, especially if it's sunny like today. It's absolutely beautiful. So what have I noticed from my first couple of hours in Stockholm? It's an expensive city. It's not cheap. I mean, what was this? Half a pint, 2/3 of a pint for £4? It's not awful. You are in the centre of the city, but everything else is really expensive. You know, postcard was £2.50. I don't know. It's not cheap, but I think all the Scandinavian countries are quite expensive. Now I was quite full after my late brunch, so I had just a snack of some hummus and some chips, which is lovely. But now it's time to head to the 3 p.m. showing of Carmen at the Swedish Royal Opera House. Now it is going to be in French, but it'd be the same as if it was in London. So let's go and enjoy it. It was only £24 as I got a youth ticket for under 26 years old. So let's go enjoy it. Behind me is the Royal Swedish Opera House, where I just watched Carmen for the last 3 hours, and to be honest I had no idea what was going on. I did have to Google it at the interval, but it was very, very well done. I've since realised it's like quite a modern take on a very old opera, but the music was incredible. I did know a little bit of the music from before, but it was actually incredible to watch and great value for only £24 as well. Now it's time to go to one of Stockholm's famous attractions, the Ice Bar, for a drink and then get some food. So that was a very cool experience, quite literally. I'm absolutely freezing. So now let's go try and find some dinner. I'm on the hunt for some meatballs. So after some rather lovely meatballs and a glass of red wine, it's time to head back to the plane on the Arlanda Express, back to the airport to get a good night's sleep. And after about 5 minutes, the next train was ready to depart for the 20-minute journey back up to the airport. Luckily, I just caught the free bus to take me back over to the plane, which was another £64 for the night. See you in the morning. Morning from sunny Stockholm. It's sadly time to leave the Jumbo Stay Hotel and head back to the UK. It's been a whirlwind of a visit, only about 36 hours actually in Stockholm, but I thoroughly enjoyed my day out yesterday and my stay in the Jumbo Stay. I have to say Stockholm is not the cheapest city in the world. This hotel was only about £60 a night, which isn't terrible to be honest. If you ask me would I rather stay in the old plane or stay in the boring old hotel across the road, I think you know the answer. It would be the old plane every day of the week. I'll have to come back and stay in the cockpit suite. So to get to Jumbo Stay, you need to take the P2 or 3 free shuttle bus outside Terminal 2 or Terminal 4. However, you can also walk. I'm just about to do the walk now. I think it's about 20 minutes, although I would recommend just doing it in the daylight. Don't make the same mistake I did. I just got a taxi from, I think, Terminal 5. It's about a 4-minute drive. I can show it on screen. I'll show how far it is. And they charged me 32 Great British pounds, but apparently it's a set fee, but still I thought it was ridiculous. And after a short but lovely walk, I made it back to the airport terminal, stopped off at the airport lounge whilst I waited for my flight back over to Heathrow, and before I knew it, it was time to board my flight home, which cost me a further £65. So let's talk through total cost. I spent a total £447 for my 36-hour trip to Sweden, Stockholm. Not cheap at all. And just like that, we're back at Heathrow Terminal 2, closing off 36 hours in Sweden, Stockholm.